she would start getting more forgetful and would her mood would be a little bit different. Um, she was became kind of almost sort of paranoid. She would come out and accuse, make accusations about bills not being taken care of, or that I was hadn't paid the mortgage or something. Things that just absolutely couldn't possibly be. And those are kind of some the change in moods was something that we probably should have noticed earlier and maybe gotten some treatment, or I should have maybe talked to the doctor about what was going on, because she was starting to get more argumentative, or she was getting weaker, and no amount of my coaxing would get her out of bed in the morning, because she was pretty much a morning person, but get her out of bed in the morning, and to at least, I would take her for walks if I had to. I'd dragged her a couple of times. We got her out and walked her up and down the street a couple of times, and then she would come back tired, and she'd go back and spend the rest of the day in her bed. And it kind of came to a point in a story that my wife likes to tell. Mom came out in her morning coat and say good morning as I was halfway through cooking dinner. Say, well, Mom, it's almost dinner time. You've been in bed all day today. She said, oh. So she went back and came back with regular clothes on, and we finished the evening, or finished dinner anyway. We watched a little television, had little conversations. I tried to get her to play some games or anything to kind of keep her mind occupied. And she would go back to her room and close the door. And we didn't see her for a while after that. And this cycle deepened. The waves of her. She was depressed from Dad's passing, and was kind of set about without a rudder to kind of guide her. One moment, please. Sorry about that. She would also have an increased incidence of falls. Her balance wasn't real good, and that's kind of a position. I don't know exactly what the term was. In my mind, it's kind of an atrophy. When she would sit in bed and read her books, her body got used to being in one position, and then when she would get up to walk or move around, her balance wasn't very good, so she would fall against things, and then we would have to take her to the doctor to have where she crashed into a doorknob or the wall or hit something on the way down when she was wiping out, and getting these things looked after. But she wouldn't remember how they happened. She just says, I'm sore. And till we take her to the doctor and have these things looked after, which led to more pain medications and led to more time where she would just stay in bed, and her memory got worse and worse, and she would sometimes not really recognize who we were, and she would be kind of hostile towards us, like, what are you doing in my house? Get out of my house. And then she took a couple pretty good spills, and there was she just, because she wasn't moving around very much, sometimes there might have been an actual injury. Mostly they were soft tissue injuries where she'd be bruised or something, but nothing really broken. And I would dutifully take her to the doctors and stuff like that. I took away her driver's license and had her issued with a state ID, because she would wake up sometimes at night, and then we would hear the car start, and she would um, I'd come out and I'd see her trying to get out of the garage, get the door open, but I had the garage door opener, and then she did back the car up against the garage door one time, but it didn't hurt anything, just kind of thump. I had to repair that panel with a big piece of angle iron it's still bolted there to this day, but it didn't hurt anything, and I hid the keys to the car and said, she's not driving anymore. But she would get out and go out walking, and then would come back and leave the doors open. I don't know where she went, because usually I was sleeping when this would happen. This would be in the middle of the night, and usually she had been asleep all through the night, get up early in the morning, and so there was a change in her day and night. And she got kind of hard to manage. In other words, it was time for dinner, or it was time for me to feed her, or time for breakfast, or something that we needed to do, or go to an appointment. And I had a pretty rough time getting her to do things. I'd give her lots of time to get things going, but I didn't feel comfortable dressing her, or having. I installed grab bars and things in the bathroom so she wouldn't wipe out, but she would still crash in there, and then I'd have to go and rescue her. So one time we took her to the doctor, and she insisted we take her to that she was in really bad shakes, and so I went ahead and I called 911, and I had her taken by ambulance to the emergency room, because frankly my temper got away from me, and well, that turned out to be kind of not a good idea. But anything that a patient says, when from a doctor's point of view, when a patient says this person did this to me, then they have to do something about it, because elder abuse is a real thing, and it's got to be taken seriously. But in this case, it was something that she thought had happened, and that's how she fell or hurt herself. And the doctors called the cops, and the cops came and they took me away. And so that was kind of a moving point, where I think not long after that, because I stayed away. I went down and stayed with some friends of mine, and left everything to my wife, bless her heart. And my brother came down and tried to help her out. Maybe he thought perhaps a change in scenery, and maybe some things that they could make arrangements for in Chicago, where there was a little bit more advanced healthcare opportunities, or opportunities were there. But her nighttime wanderings forced my brother. He had to sleep in a chair in front of the front door, and then he put a lock on the back door with a key, so that she wouldn't get out and wander around, and it wasn't safe for her up there. So she ended up back down here, came back, and then we made arrangements for her to go into a little bit more secure environment, We did put her into a memory care unit at a uh, one moment at a facility that is not very far from here, so that it was real easy for me to just jump on a bicycle. I could ride over and check on her and make sure everything was okay. Um, but they had some problems there where she would get up and then just leave, go right out through the front door, and they wouldn't stop her. And then she would wander about, and then they wouldn't know where she was, and they'd call me, and then we have to go on a mom hunt, and that prompted us to put her into a more secure, what they call a memory care unit, which is where they actually lock the old people down so that they can't escape. This is a fairly common occurrence. Um, and she stayed there for a while until she broke some more rules. I don't know what else she did, but they decided they didn't want her there anymore. So we moved her to another facility, um, and I still would go and take care of her every day and make sure that everything was taken care of. But things went souther and souther, and she got, even though they were more persistent about getting her up and getting her out, her balance then was pretty bad, and because of not exercising her, um, she became kind of fragile, and she fell and broke her hip. That was a not real good thing, and I had to kind of double up, spend a lot more time going to from here to. It was in Zanesville, which, if you're from Ohio, it's about a 30-minute drive from here. And I was making that trip every day, making sure she was okay. But she would forget that she had a new hip, and she had to use a walker to get around, at least until the hip had healed. The problem was, it never got a chance to heal because she kept getting up, forgetting that she needed a walker, and she'd wipe out, and then um, bust herself up, and then it just things rolled out of, uh, continued to get to decline. This lasted for a while, and then excuse me for a moment. These would last. She lasted pretty good for a while, and I would still go over, and I'd walk around in a wheelchair around the unit. It was in a circular thing, and I would walk her around and sing to her and tell her stories and talk to her. Although half the time I don't think she remembered quite who I was. Um, and there was a thing that happens with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's called the sundowner syndrome. When about I don't know what it is about the change of light between daytime and nighttime. Um, some people just kind of go a little crazy about that time. Mom would get very agitated and would imagine all kinds of crazy things. And I would get calls that she wouldn't take her medicine, or she was insisting that my father was there at the facility and had been murdered and was laying out in the hallway, or just all kinds of hallucinations that she that her mind would put in there, and she would believe, and that was kind of where her health started to really go downhill quite a bit when all that started. Um, And that's, well, shortly after that, after some talking to a lot of experts and a lot of research, we got hospice involved because she wasn't thriving anymore. And that's something that if I have advice, I'll have some advice too, probably in the next couple of videos. Um, Things that I would do differently, and things that uh, and I think I've already told you that don't be shy about getting hospice in there when your parents aren't thriving anymore, because frankly they bring more resources into the nursing home that aren't normally there, and they're having enough trouble maintaining staff as it is. So if they're bringing an outside party like hospice in to take care of one patient, that frees resources up so that they can take care of other patients. And the hospice nurse is there just for mom, and that worked out pretty good. Um, I don't think she had made any real improvement, but I think her comfort though was better, and she was getting her medications, and the nurse, hospice nurse, got to know her a little better, so that worked out uh, real nice. And when she finally got pretty bad, then well, things went as they do. Uh, she just kind of wouldn't get out of bed anymore, and she even the hospice nurses said to her, "Yeah, there's nothing we can do. This is the the course of this problem is going to take her out." And eventually, when she passed, um, I was able to get my younger brother in from Chicago down. We were all there when she did pass away, and we were able to clean her room out and things like that. And there's some other logistical things that we need to talk about, but it was real nice to have my brother here for those last days. Just have family. Um, I don't recall that I called my cousins or aunts and uncles, the ones that were still alive at the time, to tell them what was going on, because there were just so many balls up in the air. So I didn't do that. And if I have any regrets that I didn't take care of those things, I probably would make a checklist if I had more parents to do this. I'd have a checklist and say, did you um, call David, my older brother, or call uh, my cousins, or call Uncle Everett, or the other people who was interested in seeing what was happening with Mom as she was going. But I even uh, paid to have her hair done every couple of weeks. She would go and have a hairdresser look at her. But all of a sudden one day all of her hair fell out. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happens. I'm sure I've got my hair is all white and it's slowly going away, but all her hair fell out over the course of like 2 or 3 days. She went from a full head of hair to next to nothing. Um, I never did find out what that was, but um, that's the narrative of kind of how things went downhill. Um, Next few episodes, I'm gonna kind of pick this apart, and if I had to do things differently, things that I would do differently, and I hope that you derive some uh, these things are able to help you to formulate your plan, or make you feel a little better that you're not the only one who did things the way you did. I don't know. Just hoping this helps. And we will see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye bye.